Welcome to the 60 Plus Podcast.
I'm Janet.
And I'm Joe. Janet,
Yes.
I don't know that we've ever recorded the 60 Plus Podcast it's not that early. It's only 8:30 in the morning, but
It seems really
we're
early to
both
me.
like,
I know. Well, actually, I wasn't, but okay. I was sneezing.
you were sneezing. So
Yeah.
this is different.
Yes.
There's different light
I
coming
think
into
my
the
voice is deeper in the morning.
there's different light coming into the
Hello.
studio, and
Yeah.
the coffee's just kicking in. So
Right.
I don't know how this is going to go.
I don't know either. We'll wing it and see.
What are we going to talk about today?
Well, first of all, how are you?
I was trying to get away from that.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? I think that's a really nice way to start.
It is a nice way to start. I'm fine. I'm well.
Oh, good.
I'm well.
I'm glad to hear that.
People that have known me for a long time know I'm not the best morning person.
Yes, I know that only because of what you've told me. Not because
Just to
I've
make
spent
it clear.
Not because I spent a lot of mornings with you.
So I'm well,
Good.
given that, I got up early this morning and
Yeah.
you came up with a good topic.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us what it is?
Well, it's a nostalgia.
Oh, wait a second.
Yes.
How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Thanks. So it's a nostalgia episode. You wanted a longer answer? And oh, by the way, I said it properly.
No, you didn't.
I didn't.
You said
I'm
I'm
fine.
fine.
You can't say that either.
Fine's an adjective.
Oh, God.
How are you? Are is
Oh, right. You know what?
a
I don't want
verb.
to talk
You need
about
an
this anymore.
adverb
You're
to
right. Let's
modify
never
the
talk about this
verb.
ever again.
That's why I started the way I did.
Okay, so listen, let's stop arguing. Clearly, there's a good reason why we don't spend mornings together. So, yeah, so we are gonna. Oh gosh, are you done yet? Seriously, we're gonna spend the whole episode listening to you clear your throat. All right, let's get serious now, Joe. Even though we're not doing a
All
serious
right,
episode.
Janet, what are we talking about today?
We're not doing a serious episode.
No,
Actually,
we're not.
it's a nostalgia episode, and we're going to be talking about television shows.
Television shows we watched when we were younger.
When we were younger, yeah.
Like adolescent,
Kids.
teenage
Well,
years.
Well, actually, so I was reading some stats, of course, and apparently during like the 1970s, let's say, or 60s, 70s, kids started watching TV around age 4.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you compare screen time to back then versus today, kids are starting like when they're babies. Like they'll hold a mobile phone and
Oh,
or
sure.
an iPad or something. So it's interesting from that perspective. But so we're basically covering, say, our younger years, tween years, teenage years, right? What did we used to watch?
Mm-hmm.
When did we used to watch? How did we used to watch? And I guess maybe we can compare that to today. It's so different, right? I was thinking about this earlier. It's like we're in the time frame where we're going to be grandparents,
Yes.
right? So, the screen time, let's say, and the devices that these kids have access to, how do we now navigate that as a grandparent versus, a parent of our children back when? But anyway, that's kind of getting a little bit off topic.
I thought you said it wasn't going to be serious.
No, it's not. I was, in thinking about this, I was like, yeah, wow, it's kind of different, but it's also kind of the same. I read that back in the day, our time, kids spent an average of 54 hours on the screen.
You came up with this article from the New York Times, dated December 1970, and it talked about 54 hours preschool children spend watching TV every week.
Yeah, which actually isn't that much different than the amount of screen time, although by age it goes up to like a frightening, like if you're a teenager, 5 hours a day.
Well, 54 hours a week, a work week is 40 hours.
Right.
So 54 hours was quite a bit. And I think it was the free babysitter.
Right.
And it was also
family time.
It was family time. But it was also, and I'm just a little bit older than the Sesame Street crowd.
Yeah.
I didn't really watch Sesame Street as a kid. It came out just as I was probably a little too old for it.
Yeah.
Did you watch Sesame Street?
Well, I think I did. Yeah.
Well, you're a couple years younger than me.
Yeah. But it was so entertaining. I watched it for the entertainment, not to learn my ABCs.
Right.
or how to count, but it was, yeah, I think it was in my life. It was pretty young, yeah.
So so TV for me, I just loved watching TV when I was a kid.
Right. But it was also social, like with our families. Like I can remember like going over my grandparents' house and, you'd have your Sunday dinner or whatever, and then you'd sit down
The
and watch
Wonderful
the
World of Disney would be
right,
on after dinner.
Disney. Yeah, well, that was was that a Saturday night though?
It was Sunday night. We would be at
Sunday
my
night.
grandparents' house.
But I also remember watching football. Was that Saturday night maybe then?
I think Sunday too, but it, my at my grandparents' house, they weren't football watchers.
Yeah, and one set of grandparents we'd watch The Wonderful World of
Hmm.
Disney. The other set of grandparents were football watchers.
Hmm.
And my dad played football, so
All the parents would be in the dining room
mhm.
arguing around. We're Italian, so they're always it always sounds like they're arguing, and all the grandkids would be in the kitchen. It was very unusual. My grandmother and grandfather had two TVs. Very, very unusual for that time.
Right.
But I think the second TV was for the grandchildren, and we'd be in the kitchen,
Uh-huh.
sitting on the floor of the small kitchen,
Mhm.
watching The Wonderful World of Disney.
Well, and you bring up a good point. Like back in the day, we had the one big TV, which is why you sat around with your family to watch the one big TV. And hopefully, when nobody was around or in the house, you could watch that thing on your own and watch what you wanted to.
Did you have the round screen?
Um,
So
I just
it wasn't
remember it was
perfectly
like a
round.
big deal when we got
It
like
was a
a
piece of furniture.
larger TV. And my dad, in fact, built an entire bookcase so to fit
Wow.
where the TV was it was gonna go. And it with a big hole, if I guess, if you will, for the TV.
Ours was literally a piece of furniture. It was wooden
Yes.
cased.
Yeah, I remember my grandparents as it was a piece of furniture. Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, they call it it wasn't perfectly round, but it was a roundish screen. It
Yeah.
wasn't rectangular in any way.
Right. Right.
What were some of your favorite shows?
Back in the day.
Yeah, well, yes.
Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about. Hey, it's the morning. I've only had one cup of coffee. Oh gosh. I was hoping you would start because I mean, it depends on how old I was, right? But so I did Google like what were the most popular 1970s TV shows, and I found it interesting because they had the top picks, and many of them I did not watch, right? But then you go to the popular comedies, and I'm like, oh yeah, I used to watch all those.
Such
So
as. You're being evasive, Janet. What's going on?
okay, so I remember
Are these
watching.
guilty pleasures? Are
No,
you
I can.
afraid to admit to what you
Hey,
watched?
listen, we only had so many programming. I'm like, I watched a lot of these, like MASH,
Hmm.
All in the Family. I used to watch Hogan's Heroes.
Oh, I loved Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah, that was great. I,
But think about Hogan's Heroes for a second.
yeah,
It was a comedy about a German prisoner of war camp.
I know. It's like, what a premise, right? Mary Tyler
Even
Moore
MASH
show.
was a comedy about an army surgical hospital in the Korean War.
The Dukes of
Oh,
Hazzard.
okay. Now you're getting to the silly end of things. I went through a
Well, I
bunch of
always
shows.
liked Cars. That's why I used to watch that.
I
So,
went through a bunch of these and looked at them, and I realized something. And as we talk about some of them, it'll become evident to people
yeah.
listening. I liked shows that had pretty girls in them.
Oh, well, that's a surprise. And I guess I like shows with handsome men.
So I'm talking about the Brady Bunch.
Oh, the Brady Bunch. Yeah, I'm like, I had a crush on Peter.
Peter, really?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
So to analogize that to the Gilligan's Island male crush, were you a ginger guy or a Marianne guy?
What?
I like
I
Marianne
wasn't
more
a
than ginger.
guy. What are you talking about?
You're talking about Peter on the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
I think most women would say Greg.
Yes, but I also had an older sister, and she would always have the pick, and she would
Okay.
have the older guy, and I had to take the younger one.
Okay.
Like I had to take Danny on.
Danny wanted to in the Partridge Family?
Yeah.
Susan
I'm like,
Day.
I don't have a crush on him.
I still have a crush on Susan Day.
Do you
Oh
really?
yeah. Oh yeah. From the Partridge Family. And Danny was the funny one.
Right.
So
Yeah, which I guess that stands to reason because I do like funny people.
all right, but it's kind of funny that how many shows were around music?
Right.
There were all the dance shows like Soul Train and
Oh, I used to love Soul Train.
Soul Train.
That was probably where I got my love for dance. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
It
Certainly wasn't taking ballet lessons, let me tell you that. I'm like, no, thank you. I am not wearing a tutu.
so the one that I really, really loved, and this was a little earlier than those, the Monkeys.
Oh yeah.
I
Hey, hey, with the
I loved
monkeys.
the Monkeys. It was so trippy and so weird. I still like it.
Yeah.
If I find it somewhere, I'll watch a couple of episodes. And
Yeah.
the funny thing about that show was it was completely manufactured.
Oh,
They
was it?
Yeah, they weren't a band. They auditioned for as actors,
Yeah.
and then they became a band.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, and did you ever do the walk, when you're walking down the street? Right. Like
I
you
no,
put
I never did the walk.
Oh, come on.
No, I didn't.
That's fun. The walk is fun. Yeah, so
Explain what you're talking about.
where they're hey, hey, we're the
And they
monkeys.
kind of
And they
walk.
walk down the street like arm linked, and their legs are going in front of each other.
So the Monkeys was kind of silly and fun and trippy. Late 60s kind of psychedelia. But there was another one that was really silly that I really liked a lot.
Which was I know
Lance Link Secret Chimp.
what?
You don't remember Lancelot Link Secret Chimp?
I'm sorry. No, I do not
It was
remember that show.
it was a live action show,
No,
and they were chimpanzees playing secret agents.
that's just
It
bizarre.
was very weird. It was so silly, but it was really fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
I look at the 1970s like top picks, and I didn't watch many of those. Well, Taxi. Remember Taxi?
That was a little later, I
Yeah,
think.
it was a little Kojak was a little later.
Kojak.
That was a good show.
Kojak. So my dad smoked cigars.
Uh-huh.
Not a lot, but once in a while he'd smoke a cigar. Do you remember the little skinny cigars Kojak would smoke? The little brown skinny cigars.
Yes,
And
yes.
in one year for Father's Day, I found out what my dad loved Kojak. And one year I found what those cigars were, and I bought him a case of those cigars for Father's Day, and he just thought it was one of the best things ever.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Giving my father, tobacco products.
Right. Yeah. Great. Nice.
Different times.
Yeah. I'm trying to what were my favorite shows? It's funny. It's like a lot of these top picks I didn't really watch much. I did like Sanford and Son. That was always fun.
Wheezy. I'm coming, Wheezy. What was funny about that was Red Fox, he would do stand-up comedy. He was very blue. Lots of swears, lots of
Yeah.
inappropriate stuff. But that show was very popular.
Yes. And it showed his softer side, right?
I think so. Kind of.
The Jeffersons, that was a good
Well,
show.
The Jeffersons was a spin-off from All in the Family.
I guess I used to watch the Waltons, but it wasn't my favorite. It was
It
a little
wa- it-
too sappy.
It was.
The Love Boat?
The Love Boat was so silly.
The Love Boat.
This is why you wanted to do a
Yeah, I
TV
just
show
wanna
with all
sing.
the theme songs. There were some serious shows too that I liked. Do you remember The Courtship of Eddie's Father?
Yeah, I kind of do remember that.
So it was a divorce, not a divorce. He was a widowed dad, and Eddie was the kid, and it was about growing up in a single parent family, and the dad would
that was
date.
like
I think
before.
it was Bill Bixby.
Yeah, I didn't watch a lot of that. But remember too, there used to like now we binge watch, right? But then they
Mhm.
used to have the series, like remember Roots? Watching
Yes,
Roots? Now
yes.
that was something you sat
That
down
was
and watched with your
destination
family.
television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great series.
Kunta Kinte, right?
Yeah, a lot of the dramas I just didn't really
Do
watch.
you remember Room 222?
Yes, with
I-
John Travolta.
No.
Oh.
That's Welcome Back,
Oh,
Kotter.
welcome back.
Very, very different show.
Wait, I do remember Room.
Room
Wait, remind me.
222. There was I think he was a social studies teacher. His name was Mr. Dixon. And
Yeah.
he was a very caring teacher, and there was always some drama going on, and it was geared towards teenagers, high school age kids, but would deal with serious topics.
Right. Yeah, I vaguely remember that. Did you ever watch soap operas?
Not real. So not really. But I have two comments about soap operas. First, when I graduated from college, there was 2 or 3-page spread in our yearbook about General Hospital. It was so
Yeah, that
huge.
was really popular.
Luke and Laura got married. I
Yeah.
didn't watch it, but I
Yeah,
know
but see,
lots of
this was
people
in
that
the
did.
summer. I would watch it with my mom, and we'd have lunch, and we watch Young and the Restless, and
Okay.
then a new one came out on the scene called The Bold and the Beautiful.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now, both of those are still
Really?
playing, and every once in a while, if I'm doing a quick lunch, I might turn on The Bold and the Beautiful
And they're
because
still
it's a
doing the
half
same
hour,
things,
and
right?
it's the same
So
people, and I'm like, oh my god! And but now they've got have a little bit of a younger generation, but I'm like, wait a minute, the last time I watched this, which was probably years ago, weren't they like? They weren't married, and now they're married again. Like it just keeps on going back and forth. And like, oh my goodness, how long can this love affair last?
the one soap opera, and I'm making air quotes because it's not it's a spoof on soap operas. Do you remember Mary Hartman? Mary Hartman?
Yes, I do.
I loved Mary Hartman. Mary Hartman. I thought it was so funny. It was so, I don't know. It was such a good parody of soap operas.
Yeah.
It was just kind of crazy.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
We talked about the Brady Bunch,
Mhm.
and they kind of spun into.
Columbo.
Okay, I wasn't talking at all.
Sorry. I'm like, I keep on going back to my phone to remind me of what I used to watch as opposed just to remembering what I used to watch. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I don't remember.
Oh my goodness.
Let's see.
You were talking about Mary Hartman.
Mary Hartman.
And
Oh,
Mary.
I'll tell you one that I watched as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and then into college, it would play at probably like 1 o'clock in the morning, and
Mm-hmm.
we were just crazy about it. Hawaii Five O.
Oh yeah. Dun 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 dun. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. I'm dancing now.
It
Yeah,
was
I love that show.
well, we love
It just didn't want to make you live in Hawaii
it
so
kind of
bad.
did. It kind of did.
Yeah.
Except someone was always getting murdered, so why would you want to go and
True.
live there? But it was kind of a caricature when you go back and look at it now
Mm-hmm.
of police dramas because they would do things like drive away fast on a gravel road and the tires would be screeching.
Yeah, it was cool.
And there was some great catchphrases in that, like "Book 'em, Dano."
Yeah.
Uh,
Dano.
yep, Jack Lord.
Yep.
He was so tough, so tough. Always wearing a suit, unless he was wearing some kind of Hawaiian shirt at a cocktail party.
Right, right.
What else you got?
Well, so I'm looking at this article. Do you remember the Bob Newhart show?
Bob Newhart show was one of my favorite shows, and
He is so funny. He
the
was so
best
funny.
finale of a series ever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That was the Newhart show, the one where he was the innkeeper in Vermont,
Yes.
and it brought. And if you don't know, spoiler alert, we're gonna tell you that was a little later.
Yeah.
But the when he was the innkeeper in Vermont, the last episode was he woke up from a dream, and he was back in Chicago in bed with his wife Suzanne Plachette,
Yeah.
and said he had this crazy dream about being an innkeeper in Vermont. Very funny guy. Just recently died,
I
actually.
know he did.
Yeah, a little sad.
R.I.P. Bob Newhart. Marcus Welby, M.D.
I was just going to say Marcus Welby, M.D.
Were you?
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember watching that.
and he had like a young associate, and
Gregory House was the character's name.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Robert Young played Dr. Welby.
Robert Young was Dr. Welby,
Oh,
and
no,
he was
Dr.
kind of the.
Kiley was James Brolin.
That's who I'm thinking of.
Yes.
And Marcus Welby was kind of the older avuncular,
Yep. Mhm.
wise doctor, and the other guy.
Oh, how about Match Game?
All right, I have a guilty pleasure to admit.
Uh-oh, here we go.
I've
True
watched
Confessions.
I,
We're going
I,
to have a new episode called True Confessions.
I watch Match Game clips on YouTube now.
Oh, you do?
I thought Gene Rayburn was maybe the creepiest guy on TV. I don't know how he ever got the job. He was so weird, so weird, and it was just a weird show.
Yeah.
But that was the era also of crazy game shows like the Newlywed Game and the dating game.
Exactly.
The Newlywed Game, the whole idea of the Newlywed Game was to get them to talk about the craziest places they had sex or something.
Right. That
And
I don't wanna I'm not gonna say that joke on the air.
no, it actually happened. It
I
actually
know.
happened.
I don't think we should repeat that, Joe. Resist, Joe. Resist.
I worked for a software company, and there was a rumor, and people claim they have seen it. I can't find it. That one of the founders was once on the dating game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
Oh,
it was
that's
it
cute.
was it was a guy that you would never expect would have been on the dating game.
Yeah. John Hamm. I saw a clip of him on the dating game.
Really?
Yeah.
From Mad
And
Men?
yeah, and he was really young.
Well, he would have had to have been.
Yeah, and he had the weirdest haircut.
We all did. I had a giant afro. Come on. I mean, no, a giant
I got a
natural
perm
afro.
once.
Did you?
Yeah, I look like I stuck my finger in a light
Did
socket.
you look like a poodle?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
last week you were
Ooh,
imitating
Barney.
dogs. I mean, horses and sheep.
Okay, Barney Miller.
So Barney Miller was kind of an odd one for me.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and watched some of the earlier episodes of Barney Miller during pandemic. I went back and watched a couple of episodes of early Barney Miller. It was very dark,
It was.
very dark. And then I don't know if that was just not like doing well, so they made it funnier.
Yeah.
But it was kind of an odd show. It was serious sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
dark, and then sometimes just really funny.
The Odd Couple.
The Odd Couple. What a strange show that was.
It's like all these shows were.
No, I mean, so Jack Klugman is a sports writer, and what's his name? Felix Unger. Who
Yeah.
played what was the actor's name?
Hold on.
And he was like a wedding photographer or something like that. And he was very fastidious, and Jack Klugman was a slob.
Exactly.
Tony Randall.
Tony Randall. Yep.
That was an odd show, and I never understood the opening sequence for that show
Mm-hmm.
was something about, and that request came from his wife, right? He had like his wife kicked him out of the house,
Oh.
and she hands him a frying pan. I never understood what
Oh,
that
you
meant.
don't
What does that mean?
make your own breakfast from now on.
Okay, it's kind of like
Back in the day.
she's kicking him out of the house, and she hands him a frying
Yeah,
pan.
you're on your own. Here, go cook for yourself.
Okay, all right, I don't get it. I still don't
Well,
get it.
that's because you're a man.
Well, I'm a cook, so I would have brought the frying pan with me.
Oh, did you cook when you were married?
I did. Oh, all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's different.
Yep.
But for the bulk, now we could do the research on this. But I think even
I
to
know.
this day, right, and certainly back then.
Oh, I know. It was mostly women that cooked.
Yeah.
All right. So one of my favorites of
Yes.
all time,
Yes.
and this might go back to the pretty girl thing, but it was more than
Charlie's Angels.
that. I did have that written down,
Yeah.
but
Well, see, I watched it more because they were empowered women.
so Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Oh yeah, that was
It
great.
was so well written.
Everybody had a crush on her, right?
Oh yeah. What did they used to say? Women want to be her and men want to date her.
Yeah.
But it was so well written. All the characters were so well developed.
Yes. It was a great show.
It really was. Did you ever understand or know why she moved to Minneapolis?
To take the job.
I see. My understanding was she was in a serious relationship somewhere else, and it was a really bad breakup, and she said, I just have to move away.
Well,
And-
that could be.
And she moved away, but she didn't get the job until after she moved to
Oh,
Minneapolis.
that's true. Yeah. Well, she had her friend too, right? Or
Rhoda
did-
Morgenstern.
yeah, but did they become friends before? Maybe she
No.
moved.
No, as a matter of fact, during pandemic, I went back and watched
Oh
them.
my God, Joe!
Um,
Another true confession
so-
with Joe.
So she and Rhoda initially weren't friends because Rhoda thought she was going to get Mary's apartment. And
Oh,
Cloris Leachman was the landlord, and she rented it to Mary Tyler Moore.
yep.
And Rhoda didn't like that because she was up in the attic in some weird, sketchy apartment, and they became very good friends.
Right. So
Uh,
it wasn't for friendship that she moved.
No, I think she might have known Cloris Leachman before
There
moving
had-
to
Yeah,
Minneapolis.
there's probably some connection. But of course, we don't have to know all the backstory.
I
I
do.
just remember I love the opening of that show where she's like on the street and she tosses her hat up in the air.
And then there's that woman off on the side giving her a kind of side eye as she
Yeah.
as she throws her
I
hat
it's
up in
like
the
I
air.
remember when I first moved back to the city here some time ago now, and I was like having a Mary Tyler Moore moment, like I'm living in the city. Like, if I
Did you
had a hat on, I would have like I'm like on the sidewalk. I'm like gonna toss it up in the air, and all of a sudden I look and all the traffic had stopped, and I'm like because I was on the side of the road near a crosswalk,
hmm
and so 4 lanes of traffic stopped, and I like turned. I'm like, oh, I guess I better cross the street. I wasn't gonna cross the street because I'm having this moment, but I will now.
All right. Another crazy one,
Mm-hmm.
kind of trippy from the 70s, late 60s, I guess. Laughing.
Oh yeah.
Laughing was just so good.
Yeah, it was good.
Do you think they could do a show like that now?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it
Well,
was.
that's the thing about then versus now, right? It's like not only do we have, I was reading like there's an average of 17 screens in a home now versus the one that we had growing up.
Oh, if I had to count,
17.
I'm gonna
No,
think. You
but
keep
that's like
talking. I'm
with a
gonna count.
family, right? So you think kids, a couple average of 2 kids, right? And everybody has a phone, then there's TVs in every room, and then you have iPads and this and that and the other thing. So not only is more time being spent potentially, we have to look at the data on that, but you've got so many more programs to see, so many more posts to see, so many more. You can't really control the content. You're not going to, and it's not a way to bring really people together because it's all, everybody's watching something different. So many times you see like a family and say they're waiting for a plane or something and they're all on their mobile phones. They're not interacting. They're all on their phones watching, doing something different.
hmm
So I think that that's a big difference in terms of what we would call screen time.
Now, people that know me know my dad was a firefighter,
Mm-hmm.
and the one show that we would always sit and watch together was Emergency with the exclamation point after it. Do
Uh-huh.
you remember Emergency?
I didn't watch that.
It was about this fire station in California.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Rampart Station was the name of the station. And there was a formula.
Mm-hmm.
There were two guys. They were paramedics. They
Mm-hmm.
would always go out on calls, and then there would be another call where the paramedics and the firefighters would go and either save somebody from that was hanging from a broken crane or down a
Right.
cliff or from a big fire. The formula was exactly the same. We had to watch when Dad was home, when he
Yeah. Well,
wasn't
see,
working.
that's the thing. It was like whoever was watching whatever, you could go in and say, "What are you watching?" I can remember like my dad was always watching old movies, sometimes war movies, and I'd sit down and watch these old movies with him, but it was like a time to sort of bond, if you will.
Kind of.
And that's not how it goes unless you're binge watching something on Netflix or whatever. But
Remember, there was no pausing or rewinding back then either.
mm-hmm, right.
I mean, if you missed it, you missed it. If you had to
Yeah.
go to the bathroom, you
You had to
waited for a
wait for the
commercial. Boy, we could talk about this for another half hour. It was fun talking about old TV shows. I'm going to go back and watch some more episodes from Match
Yeah,
Game.
yeah. I guess so.
That's it for this episode of the 60 Plus podcast. I'm Joe.
I'm Janet. Bye.